Hey guys, welcome back. I thought today I'd tune into a little bit of how to start sensing your aura. So this is kind of tricky to teach through a video because usually when I have people in person, we really use the hands and walk around each other. So if you have a partner that you can do this with, then that's probably the easiest way. But if not, that's okay. It's a little bit harder to validate yourself that you're actually feeling something without somebody else kind of playing along with you. So one thing you can do is you can have the intention or instruction for your hands to turn on the chakras. So you can just say it out loud, like I turn on my hand chakras or I open my hand chakras, and just allow like your attention to kind of filter there for a minute and notice if you feel like a pulsing sensation out of the center of your palms. Notice if you already felt an energy flow and maybe it gets a little stronger, or maybe it feels like they're blocked. And so you can just focus your attention there and allow more energy to flow through it. So once you kind of get a sense that there's a little bit of energy flowing, and maybe one hand is more turned on than the other, and so just kind of notice those things, you can go back to the instructions that I have in a previous video about how to connect with the earth and the cosmic energy to kind of get more of a sense of running energy in your body that can start to activate the palms a little stronger too. So if that's something you're really wanting to start with, I'd recommend go back and check out that video real quick and then come back to this portion. So once you kind of get a sense that those energy fields are running, you can play around with feeling your energy next to like your arm and just kind of notice if, you know, maybe you feel it really close up like here, and then you start to move your hand out and notice if you feel it out here. What does it feel a little different? Does it feel like there's more pressure here? Does it feel softer out here? Or maybe you have like a pain, and let's say like the pain is like in your neck, and when you start using your hands to kind of scan the body like this, you start noticing like, oh, where I have the pain, it feels like there's more of a dense energy, or maybe it feels really prickly instead of like smooth. And so you can start to just notice the sensations that you sort of feel with your palms, and then combine that with just the thoughts and the knowingness that's going on, because you're really using all of your senses in this sort of exploration. It's not just the palms, but the palms kind of help assist clear a little bit of that energy as you're tuning in and giving it some attention. So the reason why starting with the palms seems effective as a beginner is that you really start to validate, hey, I did feel something like over here. I can feel it's like more intense, and then when I come out here, it feels a little softer, and then how far out can I go before I don't really feel it anymore? So what you're doing is you're learning, okay, how far out is my aura? And maybe you just close your eyes, ask yourself that question, and you get a sense of that answer. Maybe you see it. Maybe there's colors and you start to pick up on that. But for a lot of people when they're first beginning, it helps to use this tool of like feeling and sensing to navigate how far out they prefer their aura, how much it's out there already, and if you pull it in and you just have the instruction to call your aura in tighter, how does it make your body feel? Maybe you feel really good when it's in nice and tight. Maybe you feel kind of suffocated, or like, oh, it's too much information and I like it a little further out. So everybody's different. There is no wrong or right way to have the aura. It's just that you're noticing your own preferences before we go into the next stage of learning how to release things from the aura that can affect the way that our body is functioning, and our mind and our emotions. The next thing that you can do, allow the softening of your aura. Just take your hands and imagine that you're kind of smoothing out the aura. And don't worry if you're like, oh, well, I feel like my aura is way out here and I'm smoothing right here. That's okay. Just grab your hands if you're doing this yourself and just allow yourself to kind of get all the way around your head and go all the way around and try to get as much as you possibly can. Obviously you can't always reach like your back area and stuff, but just imagine that you're taking like your etheric hand and smoothing out the backside with your intention. So just notice if you feel different when you do that, because I know for me, like one of the first things I noticed was that I had a lot of energy I could really feel in the front of my body, but when I smoothed the back, I was surprised at how all of a sudden like I felt way more grounded. And so that seems to be kind of a consistent theme for me personally. Maybe you'll be different, but I just noticed that like maybe I focus more of my attention up here, and so when I actually give some attention to the back, it's like, oh, my aura is kind of frayed out there and I need to just kind of smooth it out and call my energy back, you know? And so for me, and a lot of people that I spend a lot of time with, we all kind of have that in common. So just play with it and notice, you know, I have a friend that prefers her aura much tighter than I do. I like mine a little bit further out. So I prefer mine 4 or 5 feet out instead of like 2 feet. And maybe you're different. So just play with it and kind of notice. But the smoothing feels really good. Like there's definitely a visceral change when I do it for myself. And a lot of people that haven't experienced any form of energy healing like this before tend to, when I check in and say, hey, how do you feel after I've kind of smoothed their aura? Because you go all the way down and you go under their feet, right? So they tend to say, oh, I feel like more weight in my body from like my thighs down, like I have a stronger stability. And so it's just interesting that maybe throughout our days, our auras start to kind of flare up from the bottom because there's so much chaos and things we're trying to manage that our aura gets a little disconnected from the earth. And so smoothing it and tucking underneath the feet with our intention allows it to feel more safe in our body, and our body feels more grounded. A lot of experiences that might come up for you, maybe certain parts of the aura feel really staticky, you know, like, oh, there's electrical pulses here, and just have the intention that you're kind of smoothing that out. Later in some of this, I think we'll talk more about noticing wounds in the aura, but you might already get a sense of that where it's like, oh, it feels like there's kind of a hole here, or oh, it feels like there's something stuck, you know, and you can just have this intention to just kind of pull that out of your space and hook it up to something, you know, okay, I'm going to hook it up to source, or I'm going to give it back to that person. If you don't get an impression of what it was, don't put that pressure on yourself, but you might be able to just breathe for a second, tune into it and go, what was that? Oh, it was when I said something to that person and they got upset with what I said and they kind of threw a little bit of their energy at me, and I'm finding it right here as like a block in my space because they were trying to get me to stop talking, or they didn't like what I had to say, or whatever it is. There's so many things. Or it could be I really wanted to say something and I didn't, so there's a block here. So you can kind of start to evolve the way that you perceive things from just the simple exercise of tuning into the aura and smoothing it with your hands, because we run a lot of healing energy through our palms, and so it's a really effective way to do it. If you can't get up and like physically do this with yourself, you can close your eyes and imagine your body in front of you and just do the exercise of smoothing with this like imaginary body. If you're doing it for somebody else as like a distance healing, you can use like a little teddy bear or a figurine, or you can just visualize it. So there really isn't a need for you to physically use your hands. It's just kind of fun to let yourself play with that a little bit. Another thing you can do is play with the idea of like an energy ball and just create it with your mind. Close your eyes, breathe, imagine you have like a little ball here and feel it like expand. And just notice if you feel it in your palms. Like, do you start feeling like a little vibration like this? Does it feel like there's pressure kind of pushing on the hand? Maybe it feels hot, maybe it feels cold, maybe you get a color, or you start to smell something. And so you can kind of play with that and making it smaller, bigger, smaller, bigger. And then what if you put some healing energy into that and then instruct that up and over your body and allow it to expand around your whole body. So you can take it in many different creative forms. Let yourself kind of just go there and play with it. Or maybe you create an energy ball and you say, I want to put everyone else's energy in this ball that doesn't belong to me, or anything I'm ready to get rid of, and just feel yourself kind of release and allow it to go into that. And then you can, you know, maybe put it in a fire and let it burn, or maybe you put a bomb under it and you let it explode, or maybe you give it to source. And so there's so many different ways that you can cleanse yourself and have more of an awareness of how capable you are in directing your own energy flow and your own energy field. So this isn't really coming from this sort of like egoic, like, oh, I'm just trying to control everything, but you're starting to tap into the acknowledgement that you're an intuitive being. And when you bring conscious awareness to things like this, you start to really integrate all that knowingness, and it empowers you. So that's the purpose, is like all these tools and exercises gives your mind the power that I feel it was instructed to have, which is creating your reality, creating those thought forms. So you start to take more control over that, not for just the sake of control, but for saying, hey, I want to feel good. I want to experience the reality I want to have. I want to get out of my own way. I want to release things that really are just old stuff that I'm carrying around. And so from that perspective, you're freeing yourself, and it's a much a lighter experience of life and more in alignment with who you truly are. So when I say trust yourself, that's what I mean, is like you're starting to really tap into all the layers of who you are in this body, and you as a spirit are very capable, and you're just reminding the body of how capable you really are. And it doesn't really require a lot of effort. It's about getting out of your own way with all those thoughts that are like, I'm not really doing this, or I can't do that, or I'm not intuitive. And so there's all this doubt that comes up, and in order to really separate from the doubt, it helps to reinforce belief systems that are in alignment with how capable you really are. And so trusting is really a beginner step, where it's like, okay, I'm gonna just dive in, and I'm going to have this intention, and I'm going to say, you know, today I want to work on my aura. Today I want to feel it. And just allowing yourself to breathe and show up fully to that exercise allows yourself to really validate what's going on. So the validation plays a large role in how capable we are. So I hope that's useful. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. And if you're interested in more topics like this, then check out my other videos. Take care. Bye. Definitely an animal outside. In the dark, not creepy at all. Anywho,